The rain-slicked streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium glow of streetlights as I gripped the wheel of my beat-up '98 Ford pickup, its engine coughing like it was as nervous as I was. My knuckles whitened, not from the cold, but from the dread pooling in my gut. Tonight was the Gala, the annual Pacific Ventures celebration where my family of vipers in tailored suits would gather to toast their empire. An empire I bankrolled with every cent of my soul, only to be spat on as the useless one. I glanced at the sapphire necklace resting against my collarbone, its cool weight the only tether to my mother's memory to a time when I believed family meant loyalty. Tonight, I'd wear it like armor, though I knew it wouldn't shield me from their venom. The valet at the Four Seasons barely glanced at my truck, his eyes skimming over the rust spots to the Bentleys and Teslas purring in line. I parked myself, the tires screeching faintly as I misjudged the curb. My black dress, a $30 fine from a Nordstrom Rack clearance bin, clung to me like a second skin, modest but sharp enough to pass muster. I smoothed it down, my fingers brushing the sapphire, and stepped into the night air, thick with the scent of rain and money. The hotel's ballroom was a cathedral of excess crystal chandeliers, casting fractured light across gold-trimmed walls. Champagne towers sparkling like liquid diamonds. The crowd moved like a flock of peacocks, their laughter sharp, their Rolexes glinting. I felt like an intruder in my own story, my heels clicking too loudly on the marble floor. I scanned for a familiar face, someone who might nod and mean it, but all I caught were sidelong glances, the kind that sized me up and found me wanting. Then it came, sharp as a blade. "There's Caitlin," a woman's voice hissed, dripping with disdain, the one who never amounted to anything. I froze, my breath catching like I'd been punched. The words weren't whispered, they were meant to wound, to slice through the crowd and find me. I forced my shoulders back, my mother's voice echoing in my head. "Stand tall, Keelan. They can't break what they don't own." But she wasn't here anymore, and the room felt like it was closing in on another voice. A man's, colder. Why is she even here? She doesn't belong in a place like this. I touched the sapphire, its smooth surface grounding me, but my chest burned. I'd spent years swallowing their insults, smiling through the pain, pretending I didn't hear. But tonight those words were knives, carving away the last scraps of my dignity. I kept walking, eyes forward, but inside I was unraveling. Then I saw her, Cassandra, Nathan's mistress, perched like a queen at the VIP section's edge. Her crimson dress screamed money, probably more than my truck was worth. Her smirk was a weapon, and she wielded it with precision. "Oh, look who dragged herself out of obscurity," she called, her voice ringing through the ballroom. She raised a manicured hand, snapping her fingers. "Security! Get her out of here!" The world tilted. My throat tightened, words trapped like flies in honey. I thought I'd miss her, but the crowd turned, their eyes boring into me. 2 guards approached, their faces apologetic but firm. "Ma'am," one said, his voice low, as if softness could dull the sting. "You need to come with us." I didn't move at first, my body locked in that old familiar freeze. Nathan stood near the stage, his armani suit pristine, his face a mask of indifference. He met my eyes for a split second, then turned back to his circle of suits, laughing like I wasn't his sister, like I was nothing. The guards took my arms gently, but it didn't matter. The humiliation was a living thing, clawing at my chest as they led me through the sea of staring faces, business partners, family friends, strangers who'd whisper about this for years. Outside, the rain hit my face like a slap. I stumbled toward my truck, parked at the lot's edge, far from the valet's pristine lineup. My heels sank into the wet gravel and I clutched the sapphire necklace, its chain biting into my palm. I leaned against the truck, the cold metal grounding me as my breath came in ragged gasps. All these years, I whispered to the empty lot. All those sacrifices for this. The Gala's lights glowed behind me, a mockery of everything I'd lost. I paid off Nathan's $3 million debt when Pacific Ventures teetered on bankruptcy. I'd co-sign loans for his expansions, mortgage my inheritance to keep the company's lights on. And tonight, they'd thrown me out like trash. My reflection. In the truck's window was a stranger's hollow eyes, a face drained of fight. But something inside me snapped, a spark in the dark. "This is the last time," I said aloud, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. "The last time they humiliate me." I slid into the driver's seat, the engine sputtering to life. But as I shifted into gear, a shadow moved in the rearview mirror. A figure in a black hoodie stood at the lot's edge, watching. My pulse spiked. I locked the doors, my hands trembling, but when I looked again, they were gone. Just the rain and the dark. I shook it off, chalking it up to nerves, and peeled out of the lot. The drive home was a blur, the wipers slapping rhythmically against the windshield. No radio, no phone, just the hum of tires on wet asphalt and the loop of that night playing. In my head, Cassandra's smirk, Nathan's betrayal, the crowd's stares. My Seattle apartment was a small, cluttered refuge, but tonight it felt like a tomb. I flicked on the light in my home office, the glow catching the sapphire necklace. As I set it on the desk, it used to mean love, family, legacy. Now it was a relic of everything I'd lost. I sank into my chair, staring at the family photos on the bookshelf, smiling faces from a time when I thought we were a team. Nathan, our mother, me, all frozen in moments that lied. I wanted to smash them, but instead I opened my laptop, my fingers shaking with purpose. They called me useless, but I wasn't useless when I bailed Nathan out of his gambling debts. I wasn't useless when I secured investors for his precious expansions. I was the invisible scaffolding, and they tore me down after every ribbon dash cutting dot enough. I logged into the bank accounts, my fingers flying as I froze every joint account tied to Nathan, our mother, anyone who'd taken my silence for granted. Each click was a cut, severing the strings they'd used to puppet me. I canceled the credit cards they'd leaned on for years, Nathan's Platinum Amex, our mother's Visa for her charity luncheons. The rhythm of the keyboard was my heartbeat, steady and unyielding. Then I scrolled to my financial advisors. It was past midnight, but I didn't care. "Keelan?" David's voice was groggy, laced with worry. "What's wrong?" "Sell my stake in Pacific Ventures," I said, my voice flat. "All $42 million of it, first thing tomorrow." A pause. "Keelan, are you sure? That's a massive move. It could tank the company." "Good," I said, cutting him off. Let them feel what it's like to lose everything. He tried to reason, his voice slipping into that patronizing tone people use when they think you're spiraling. "Sleep on it. We can talk in the morning." "No," I snapped. "Do it? I'm done letting them own me." I hung up, my heart pounding, not with fear, but with clarity. My phone buzzed almost instantly. Nathan, then Nathan again, then a text. "What the hell are you doing?" "Call me now." I set the phone face down, letting it vibrate against the desk. Each unanswered buzz was a small victory, a crack in their control. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. For years, I'd thought peace meant silence. Tonight, I learned silence could be a weapon, but as I stood to pour a glass of water, aloud, thud echoed from the back door. My heart stopped. The apartment was on the 3rd floor. No one should be there. I grabbed a kitchen knife, my pulse hammering as I crept toward the door. The handle rattled, a shadow shifting behind the frosted glass. I froze, the knife trembling. In my hand, "Who's there?" I called, my voice sharper than I felt. Silence, then footsteps, retreating fast. I flung the door open, but the hallway was empty, only a crumpled note on the mat. "Back off, or you'll regret it." My blood ran cold. Someone knew what I was planning, and they weren't just watching, they were close. I locked the door, double-checking. The deadbolt, and sank to the floor, the note crumpled in my fist. This wasn't just about family anymore. Someone wanted me scared, silenced, but I wasn't the girl who froze in the ballroom. Not tonight. I tucked the note into my pocket, a reminder that this fight was bigger than I'd thought. By dawn. Was wired on coffee and adrenaline, my office a war room of open files and scribbled plans. The sapphire necklace sat on the desk, catching the morning light. It wasn't just jewelry, it was a promise to myself. I'd been the quiet one, the helper, the one who paid for their dreams while they erased mine. But no more. I called David again, my voice steady. It's me. Liquidate everything, now. Keelan, this is $42 million, he said, his voice tight. There's no one doing this. I know, I said, staring at the family photos. Soon take down. That's the point. As I hung up, my phone lit up with another unknown number. I ignored it, but the voicemail chime followed. A distorted voice, low and menacing. You think you can walk away? We know where you live. My stomach churned, but I deleted the message. They wanted me scared. Instead, I was angry. I drove to Claire Holt's office downtown, the city skyline a blur of steel and glass. My truck's brakes felt soft, sluggish, but I chalked it up to the old beast's age. Claire was waiting, her office a sleek contrast to my chaos polished. Wood, a view of Puget Sound, and a handshake that said she didn't mess around. You've got more power in Pacific Ventures than Nathan realizes, she said, scanning my documents. You've been funding their empire single-handedly. Exactly. I said, the validation like a spark in the dark. And they call me useless. She leaned forward, her eyes sharp. If you play this right, you don't just walk away. You burn their world down. Her words lit something in me, a fire I hadn't felt in years. But as I left her office, the danger followed. Crossing the street, a black SUV roared toward me, its engine screaming. I dove onto the sidewalk, my knees scraping concrete as it sped past. No plates, no driver's face. My heart pounded, the note from last night flashing in my mind. Someone wasn't just threatening, they were acting. Back home, I locked every door, my hands shaking as I pored over records. Buried in expense reports, I found it. $500,000 in consulting fees wired to a shell company tied to Cassandra. The dates aligned with their lavish Vegas trips, their yacht weekends. Proof. Nathan wasn't just betraying me. He was stealing from the company I built. I leaned back, the weight of it settling in. This wasn't just a family feud anymore. It was war. And as I stared at the sapphire necklace, I knew I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for every piece of me they tried to erase. Tomorrow, I'd walk into that boardroom not as the quiet sister, but as their reckoning. But tonight, as the city hummed outside and another anonymous call buzzed my phone, I knew one thing for certain. They'd underestimated me, and they were about to pay for it. The Seattle dawn was a gray smear across my apartment window, the city's pulse muffled by the rain that hadn't stopped since last night. I sat at my desk, the sapphire necklace glinting under the desk lamp like a silent ally. My office was a battlefield of scattered papers, loan agreements, emails, expense reports, each a bullet in the arsenal I'd built against Nathan. My phone buzzed again, another unknown number, the fifth since midnight. I didn't answer. The distorted voicemail from yesterday still echoed in my head. We know where you live. My fingers tightened around the coffee mug, cold now as I pushed the fear down. Fear was a luxury I couldn't afford today. Today, I was going to war. I'd spent the night compiling evidence. Every document a testament to the empire I'd helped build and Nathan had stolen. The $500,000 in consulting fees wired to Cassandra's shell company was the smoking gun, but it was only the start. There were emails where I'd secured investors, contracts I'd drafted to save Pacific Ventures millions, all buried. Under Nathan's name, I'd been the scaffolding, the invisible spine, and they tore me down after every victory. But no more. I opened my laptop and finalized the letter to the board, ceasing every member, scheduling it to hit their inboxes at 9 a.m. right when they'd be sipping their espressos. Unprepared for the bomb I was about to drop, a sharp creak from the hallway snapped me out of my focus. My heart lurched. I grabbed the kitchen knife I kept close since last night's intruder, my pulse hammering as I crept toward the door. The apartment was silent, but the air felt heavy, like someone was holding their breath on the other side. I checked the deadbolt still locked and peered through the peephole. Nothing but the dim hallway. Then I saw it. Another note slipped under the door, the same scrawled handwriting as before. "Stop now or you won't see it coming." My stomach twisted, but I shoved the note into my pocket with the first. Someone was desperate to keep me quiet, and that only made me louder. I called Claire Holt, my attorney. Her voice a steady anchor. "In the storm. Keelan, you okay?" she asked, picking up on the first ring. "Not really," I admitted, my voice low. "Someone's leaving threats. Notes, calls, a car nearly ran me down yesterday." She didn't hesitate. "Get a security system installed today. And don't go anywhere alone until we figure out who's behind this. You're shaking a big tree, Keelan. People don't like that." "I know," I said, glancing at the sapphire necklace. "But I'm not stopping." "Good," she replied, her tone sharp with approval. "Meet me at my office at noon. We'll go over the plan for tomorrow's board meeting." "You've got the evidence. Now we make it hurt." I hung up, my resolve hardening, but the threats gnawed at me. As I left for Claire's office, my truck's brakes felt worse, squealing with every stop. I barely made it to downtown Seattle when the pedal went soft, then useless. The truck lurched through a red light, horns blaring as I swerved to avoid a bus. My heart slammed against my ribs. As I coasted onto the shoulder, tires crunching gravel. I sat there, hands shaking, the memory of the SUV flashing in my mind. This wasn't an accident. Someone had tampered with my brakes. I called a tow truck. My voice steady despite the adrenaline. While waiting, I texted Claire. "Brakes cut. I'm fine, but this is escalating." Her reply was immediate. "Get here now." "I'm sending a car." The driver she sent was a burly ex-cop named Mike, his eyes scanning the street like he expected trouble. I clutched my laptop bag, the weight of my evidence grounding me as we sped toward Claire's office. Her office was a fortress of calm, the Puget Sound shimmering outside her window. Claire didn't waste time. "You're not just fighting Nathan," she said, sliding a folder across her desk. "You're exposing a house of cards. These transfers to Cassandra? They're just the tip. Nathan's been siphoning funds for years, and the board's been too scared or too complicit to call him out." I opened the folder, my breath catching at the numbers. Millions funneled through shell companies, disguised as marketing budgets, travel expenses, even charitable donations. My money, my trust fund, my inheritance had been Nathan's personal ATM. He used me, I whispered, the betrayal cutting deeper than I expected, and called me useless while doing it. Claire's eyes softened, but her voice stayed. "Firm, you've got leverage, Keelan, more than he realizes. Tomorrow, you walk into that boardroom and make them choose, you or him." I nodded, but as I left her office, the weight of it all pressed down. The threats, the brake failure, the notes, they weren't just intimidation. They were warnings from someone with something to lose. And I was about to take it all away. That night, I installed a security system. The beeping cameras, a small comfort. But sleep didn't come. I sat in my kitchen, the sapphire necklace in my hands, its facets catching the dim light. I remembered my mother fastening it around my neck before every family event, her smile promising safety. "Support Nathan," she'd said. "It's his legacy." I'd believed her, poured everything into his dreams, thinking it made me noble. Now I saw it for what it was, erasure. I wasn't just fighting Nathan. I was fighting the story they'd written about me, the one that said I was nothing by morning. My phone was a war zone 47 missed calls, half from Nathan, the rest from unknown numbers. A new voicemail waited, the same distorted voice. "You're digging your own grave." I deleted it, my hands steady now. Fear was still there, but it was fuel, not a cage. I dressed for the board meeting in a tailored blazer and skirt, the sapphire necklace a quiet declaration. No more hiding the Pacific. Venture's boardroom was a glass and steel shrine to power, its long mahogany table reflecting the city skyline. My heels clicked with purpose as I crossed the room, every eye on me. Nathan sat at the head, his arm draped over the chair where Cassandra perched, her tailored suit reeking of overpriced perfume. The audacity of her presence at a board meeting. No less made my blood boil, but I kept my face neutral. "Keelan?" Nathan drawled, his voice dripping with condescension. "This is a private meeting. You don't belong here." I set my leather folder on the table, meeting his gaze without flinching. "I built this company as much as you did, Nathan. Try telling me I don't belong." A murmur rippled through the room. The board members, gray-haired men who'd ignored me for years, shifted uncomfortably. They knew the truth, even if they'd never said it aloud. Nathan's smirk faltered, and I seized the moment. "Let's be clear," I said, my voice calm but razor-sharp. "Pacific Ventures didn't grow on your charm. It grew on my contracts, my investments, my money." Nathan scoffed. "Are you really dragging family drama into a boardroom? You made it personal when you used my trust fund to bankroll your affair." I shot back. Cassandra flinched, her hand gripping the armrest like she could vanish into it. "Good." I opened my folder, sliding a stack of documents across the table. "These are the incorporation papers for Pacific Ventures. My signature's right there. My stake isn't a formality, it's foundational." The room went still. An older board member, Harold, cleared his throat. "She's correct. This gives her legal authority over major decisions." Claire, silent until now, leaned forward, her voice smooth and lethal. "Miss Keelan has been unlawfully excluded from decision-making. Any actions taken without her consent are subject to legal challenge, including misuse of funds." Nathan's face reddened, but I didn't give him a chance to respond. I pulled out the expense reports, highlighting the $500,000 transfers to Cassandra's shell company. "Tell me, Nathan," I said, tapping the page. "Which department approved these consulting fees? The ones that match Cassandra's little Vegas getaways?" Cassandra whispered frantically to Nathan, her face pale. He ignored her. "This is personal betrayal," I said, my eyes sweeping the table. "But it's also embezzlement. And everyone here knows what happens when that goes public." The silence was suffocating. Harold spoke again, his voice shaky. "Perhaps we should discuss a restructuring plan." Nathan slammed his fist on the table, making Cassandra jump. "You're destroying this family, Keelan." "You did that," I said, unflinching, "the day you used my money to fund your mistress." My phone buzzed in my pocket, another unknown number. I ignored it, but the timing unnerved me. Someone in this room or just outside was watching. I pressed on, sliding a flash drive to Harold. "These are recorded conversations," I said. "Nathan admitting to using company funds for personal expenses, verifiable, time-stamped, and damning." Cassandra stood abruptly, muttering, "I didn't sign up for this," and bolted for the door. Nathan didn't stop her. The board members exchanged glances, their loyalty to Nathan crumbling under the weight of my evidence. I leaned forward, my voice steady as stone. "Here's my offer. Nathan steps down as CEO and repays every cent he stole, or I go public tomorrow. You choose chaos or control." The room erupted in murmurs. Nathan's eyes burned with rage, but fear flickered beneath it. For the first time, he saw me not the quiet sister, but the woman who could burn his empire to ash. Then, chaos. A board member's phone buzzed, his face paling as he read the screen. "It's a threat," he whispered, passing it to Harold. "Someone knows about this meeting." My heart raced, but I kept my composure. Claire slid resignation papers across the table. "Sign them, Nathan, or we move forward with criminal charges." Nathan's hand trembled as he picked up the pen. The scratch of his signature was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. But as he pushed the papers toward me, his eyes locked on mine, promising retribution. I didn't flinch. I'd won this round, but the threats, the notes, the breaks, the calls told me the war wasn't over. That night, I lay in bed, the sapphire necklace on my nightstand, its glow a reminder of who I'd become. My phone buzzed again, another unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. The distorted voice was colder this time, You think you've won, you're just getting started. I deleted it, but sleep didn't come. The security cameras beeped softly, but every creak in the apartment made me jump dot by morning. The headlines hit like a tidal wave. Pacific Ventures CEO accused of embezzlement, sister claims mental instability. Nathan hadn't wasted time. Fabricated bank statements, lies about me misusing $2 million, whispers that I was unhinged. It was his playbook paint me as the bitter, crazy sister. My hands shook, but Claire's voice on the phone steadied me. We expected this, she said. You've got the truth. We're ready. I clung to that as I prepared for the emergency board meeting Nathan had called to oust me officially. But as I stepped out of my apartment, a figure in a black hoodie lingered across the street, watching. I froze, the note's warning flashing in my mind. I ducked back inside, my heart pounding, and called Mike, the driver. I need you now. I said, someone's out there? Mike arrived in minutes, his eyes scanning the street. No one now, he said, but his hand rested on his holster. I clutched my laptop bag, the weight of my evidence, my only anchor as we drove to the boardroom. Nathan was posturing when we arrived, Cassandra at his side, pale and jittery. The board members looked like they aged a decade overnight, caught between Nathan's bluster and my proof. This meeting is to address my sister's reckless actions, Nathan began, his voice dripping with false calm. I cut him off, sliding. NY documents across the table. Let's talk about your actions, Nathan, like these transfers to Cassandra's shell company. The room exploded in murmurs. Nathan snapped. That's fabricated. But his voice cracked. I didn't blink. No, it's embezzlement. And here's the kicker: recorded conversations where you admit it. Claire handed out flash drives, her eyes burning with quiet triumph. Verified, time-stamped and ready. For the press, Nathan's face twisted, but the board was done. Harold spoke, his voice heavy. This is damning, Nathan. We can't ignore it. You can't take this company from me. Nathan shouted, sweat beading on his brow. You're right, I said, calm as ice. I can't, but the board can. And unless you repay every cent, they'll have no choice. The silence was deafening. Nathan looked for allies, found none. He signed the resignation papers, his hand shaking, his empire crumbling. As I watched the ink dry, I felt free, not just victorious, but unbound from the role they'd forced me into. 3 months later, I stood in my new Portland loft, the Willamette River glinting outside. The family portraits were gone, replaced by my photographs swimming in moments of quiet strength, buildings weathered but standing. The sapphire necklace sat in a shadow box, a plaque beneath it reading freedom. Nathan was disgraced, my accounts restored, but victory felt hollow. It wasn't just about winning, it was about what came next. At my first photography exhibit, a young woman approached, her eyes wide. Your work, it's like you've been where I am, she said. It gives me hope. I squeezed her hand, seeing my younger self in her. It's not just about fighting back, I said. It's about writing your own story. As I stepped into the Portland night, the air crisp and alive, I knew the threats might not be over. But I was no longer the girl who froze. I was Keelan, the woman who'd burned an empire to build her own. And whatever came next, I was ready.